Good evening.
Hello. Hi, good evening.
Hi. I'm Elizabeth Daly, President of the Friends of the Hudson Public Library. I would like to thank you for joining us today. The Friends have asked the library to present information about the library building project as we move through the next steps as a town. Today we are joined by Aileen Sanchez-Himes, who is the Library Director for the Hudson Public Library. And also joining us is Christine Tridente, who is the Chair of the Board of Library Trustees for Hudson. Please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight to learn about our library building project. Christine and I are excited to share what we could potentially have for our town of Hudson with the new library building and renovation. So this is what our future library will look like. Our architects were Type A architects. They're known for working with historic buildings and tight spaces. We did interview other architects, but they seem to rise to the top. And working with them in our building committee and input from the community, this is the design that we ultimately selected, had voted on. This is called the hinge. So with our new library, lately we've been focusing a lot on the problems of our library, and everybody knows that we do have our issues, but we wanted to highlight the benefits of the library, what we give the services, and then what this new design would bring. So all the libraries that have applied for this construction grant do have issues with ADA compliance. They've outgrown their spaces. Some don't have study rooms and program spaces. We fall into that category. But with our new design, we would be much more compliant, which is a regulation, state regulations that we would have to abide by, and we want to abide by. So we would have accessible parking, our walkways, if you understand the steep slopes that we have at the library, the walkway in the back, which people are at risk for injuries. We would have, our restrooms would be ADA compliant. We'd have more restrooms also on each level. Our elevators, handrails, stairs, book returns, all those things would be brought up to code. One of the things that we've been doing is we've been working with the health department also as a warming and a cooling center. So when the weather varies, Lauren is great about contacting us and finding out if we're going to be open and closed and all that stuff. So we want to continue that partnership with the health department. Dedicated program space, as you can see, the space that you're in is our communal quiet reading, study space, and program space. So we don't have a dedicated program area. Our library would afford for us to have this space that's strictly for programs. We would want to use it during the week also if it's not used as a program area, to allow people to access that area. This is your library. You guys are investing in it, so it's really important to us that we can provide as much as we can for the community. Other things, the Friends book sale, we would have dedicated space for them. They work so hard to help support the library and help supplement what we don't receive in grants and from the town, so we're grateful for them. They're hosting tonight. So what else? Access to the computers, updated technology, better access, Wi-Fi, charging stations, also not just having to walk up to a charging station, but when you're sitting that you have access to these things. If I could go back to the ADA and accessibility also, another thing that I just want to highlight is transportation. Also, we would be a stop here with local transportation. I don't know what it's called. I don't live in Denver.
Like the MRT.
Thank you. So you know that it stops
stop.
locally. So being in this area, that would help with accessibility for those that need to get to the library as well. I just wanted to mention that before I forget. A maker space. So there is interest in a maker space. We do have one in our designs. It is a modest space, so we kept that in mind. Tech lab, which is a Think, Explore, Create lab. That's what tech would stand for. And then dedicated space for exhibits and displays and showcases also. So we currently have some exhibit space, some wall space, but this is another thing that the community is interested in. So more for everyone. So the study spaces as well, we want to have areas for people to study. If you're working from home, that you get out from your home and are able to come to the library and use space if you need a change of environment. Meeting spaces, we do have people that use our current meeting room. We have one meeting room here that accommodates up to 8 people that will use it, for private meetings and if they're discussing benefits or if they're, having to take a phone call or virtual interview, things like that. What else? A centralized business resource center, so having your faxing, photocopying, all those services at one location. A dedicated local history room, which we don't have yet, and we want to highlight Hudson's history and work with the Historical Society as well. Adequate shelving space we need to account for growth for our collections. We want to grow our Library of Things collection, be able to showcase that properly. Prominent welcoming areas for browsing new materials. So when you enter the library where the circulation department is, right now you get to browse that collection, but we want to, exhibit that, have it stand out much more when visitors are coming to the library. Convenient self-service holds and checkout. So that is an option that we offer. It's not a requirement, but sometimes if you're, if there's a line that we have, or if you want to come in and retrieve your materials quickly, you can just come in. So we will continue to offer that service. Seating, so our seating right now, we want to, it's kind of limited here. We want to make it more engaging, more collaborative, have it updated. So we would offer various types of seating for everyone, all ages, kids, parents, teens, adults. And then also the lounge seating. It's important for us to make sure that we have areas dedicated for reading. So the benefits for the children's and families, so those services will be all on one level. We will have a dedicated program space, which we don't have now. We're currently using a stage that has an 18-inch drop. If you read our conditions assessment, you will see that. So that's not, safe for anyone that's accessing that space. We will continue to have our dedicated preschool play area as well. We will maintain our technology. We'll have updated technology for children and for caregivers. A dedicated study room on that level also. So currently we have tutors that are coming into the library and they're working with students in the stacks here. So they're out in an open space. There's disruption, there's not, it's not a good environment for them. It's not the least restrictive environment when you're in the stacks. Comfortable sofa space for caregivers and children to read together. Stroller parking is another thing that came up in our surveys as well. And then just making sure that we have family-friendly restrooms as well. Teens, we want to have more teens come to the library. This is their space, and we are open to all. So we would have dedicated quiet and social areas. They'll be able to, have space for gaming, but they'll also have space to do homework or work on collaborative projects. What else? Technology, again, is very important, making sure that everyone has access to that, all ages, offering movies, and just, other activities that they could work on. And then again, the whole seating throughout the library, we can offer just the different types of seating.
And I just have to say, I was in the Air Library yesterday. I'm trying to visit all 371 public libraries in Mass, so a little bit at a time. Their teen center was overrun with teen, sometimes you wonder, like teen spaces, teens specifically avoid any place that you tell them is their space, and they'll go be in the place where which is their job. It was awesome. They were giggling, and it was a broad range. There were bearded people, but there were also maybe 12 to 18. They were having so much fun. There was a group that were just gathered around. I think they might have been doing Dungeons and Dragons, but I walked in and I was like, oh, yes, this is gonna be us in a couple of years. Seeing teens just in the library at 2 o'clock on whatever yesterday was, Wednesday, having so much fun. It's just a little boost. It was great.
So some of the things we had, the welcome and introductions. These are some things that we're going to continue to talk about. So the library building repairs and conditions. Christine will talk about the budget review and household costs, how we got here, the benefits of the library, just general and in the new building. I know we covered some of that, and then just the critical factors and the consequences of not moving forward with this project. Okay, so we showed you some of the good. Now we're going to show you some of the not so good.
Right, but first, how we got here. So a lot of people don't realize that we're already 3 years into this grant process. So in response to the worsening structural and maintenance issues of the current building, library staff, trustees, and the building committee started this process 3 years ago. They're about $310,000 in so far. This process does cost money. The town put up $150,000 of it, just a good thing for you to be aware of. We thought we'd be having these meetings like 2 years in the future, but a couple of towns dropped out in May-ish. So we flew up to the top of the list. We have no say sort of over the timing, where next. The MBLC needs our votes certified by April 30th of 2027. Use it or lose it. If we don't, if the project doesn't pass at the ballot in September and town meeting in November, another town is going to get the $13.2 million that currently has our name on it, which is great for them, but bummer for us.
So in the last 25 years, this is a list of repairs that we have dealt with at the library, primarily a lot of steam pipe leaks. We've experienced mold and mildew in our staff area, roof repairs, and just, let's see, masonry work at the north stairwell. So we've had some cracking of the library addition. Also, we've had to put crack monitor sensors on the building to show that the addition is shifting apart from the original Carnegie portion. With these steam pipe leaks, if I can go back to that also, when this happens, we have a disruption in service, so we're taking staff and we're having to pivot and address these issues and then determine, depending on how much damage there is, how long those repairs take. The list for the first 90 years is a lot smaller, so you can see that it is, increasing with issues. So, and these are more improvements than everything else, adding an elevator, handrails, a book return, fire alarm system, things like that. With our children's room, so one of the incidents that we had, this one in particular put our children's room out of commission for 6 months due to a steam pipe leak. And this steam pipe leak, the soffit areas in front of the elevator in the children's room, this occurred a few times. So this may have been the third leak that we had in that space, Lisa, I'm not sure.
Third or fourth.
Yeah.
Maybe the fourth was last winter.
Oh, that's right, yes. There's evidence of these active leaks throughout the building. This is at the rear window in the children's room. In terms of accessibility, so we have this ramp, but it leads to the stage area that is used for the program space. But in order to access that stage, you have to climb a few steps, showing that it's not accessible and it's not very safe for children. The exterior of the library, so those of you that do come and visit the library, and to enter the building, if you park behind the fire station, you have to walk up the common driveway to enter the main entrance, or you have to walk behind near the river on the walkway there. It's an uneven walkway, and then up a steep slope to get into the children's room. The first entrance up the steep slope has stairs on it, again, an accessible issue that we have. The second entrance is further up where the accessible doors are. When we have torrential downpours, there is pooling in the front of the library. Also during the winter when it snows or it gets icy and it starts melting, that is an issue. The handicap parking spaces, though we're grateful that they're out front, they are not compliant. There are no curb cuts. And then also the way that the traffic flows down in that rotary, isn't the safest conditions, to say the least. So parking would actually, we would offer parking at the rear side of the library, so you come down the 3 spaces. We do have the renderings up here, so you can take a look at some of that this evening. Front entrance, not complying also, you have steps to, enter, to get to the first landing, also to access that book drop. And then once you get through the front doors, you're greeted by 10 more steps that you have to climb to get to the main landing. Restrooms, so these are our 2 single-use restrooms throughout the whole library. We are an active library for a medium-sized building, but with these restrooms, they are tight. They're not handicap accessible. Once again, not warm and inviting. So that's another thing that the new library design, would address, would help resolve these issues. This here is our staff stairwell and also our emergency exit. So we do have a lot of roof issues whenever it rains. It does rain inside.
It's not a feature.
Other areas where we've experienced leaks throughout the building, so in our attic we've had leaks, in our staff areas we have leaks, down in the teen space there's evidence of mold from previous water damage. The main level that you enter, when you come in through the main entrance here, was designed to be a reading room. So the stacks were put in later, but it was not meant to maintain all that weight. When I started working here, one of the things that I had wanted to do was lower the shelving and turn them 90 degrees for better sight lines, and we were not able to do that. We actually also had to reduce the collection because of all the weight that was bearing on it. Again, and this is the area where the addition is separating. If you look at the bottom right picture there, it shows some of the shelving that's leaning in, and it's also braced by a safety bar as well. So more evidence of leaks. This is in the reference area and in the stacks. And then by our public computers, the expanding and the contracting of the steam pipes did, break through the wall down in that space. This was our staff kitchen and restroom area, so the evidence of the mold coming through here. And this was our staff stairwell back in 2019, where there was water that was pooling underneath the staff stairwell. Also your emergency exit. There was a section of pipe that had to be replaced, about 30 feet long. And then the evidence of the shifting of the addition, there's just cracks throughout the building. This is in the staff area and in the staff hallway. More evidence of just cracking. Here, this is in the main level in the reference area. And then here in the McClellan room also. So we have some paint peeling, and there's still more evidence of the shifting of this addition. Down in the library basement where the furnace is, this is issues of leaks that we've had to contend with, along with oil and then condensation. These are the sensors that were put on to the library to monitor the shifting.
Okay. So I'm not going to read all of these numbers, but just you can see total project cost is estimated to be just over 37 million. Construction cost, which is essentially directly related to demolition and construction, 24.8. Professional services, 5.3. That's making sure that we have engineers, architects, and the professionals who can make sure that we're not here again 2 years after the new beautiful building is built. And then about 6.8, the related project costs are things like getting everything into a new location and paying rent or whatever needs to happen to still keep services going for the amount of time that this building is out of service. Our grant award is about 13.2, which leaves an obligation of about 23.8 for the town. So the tax impact provided by Tom Gregory, this information, is about $22 a month for the average single-family household. And that will likely hit about a year after construction begins. Hope, you know, if and when this passes, it still has to go out to bid. There's still a lot of groundwork, sort of figuratively and literally, that needs to be laid before work begins, and then it will take another year or so for the tax impact to hit.
How I consider it is $22 a month is what the purchase of a book would be a month.
And 1.5 movie tickets, maybe. You know, all the services you get, maybe a snowshoe, one, you know, so.
So with our renovated designs here, again, just going back to the exterior here, one of the things that TAP-A did take into consideration is sort of blending the old with the new. So keeping the facade, keeping the stairwell, and then as we transition to the new section, just that it complements it, that it's not jarring. The parking features, we will have set up for 3 EV stations. We will not be installing them, but we will prep them so that if we're able to secure a grant or work with somebody and get funding for this, that's something that we are taking into consideration. Also, the handicap parking space is at the rear of the library, and it would be restriped also. Entering the library, this is the parking level, so it would be handicap accessible. You have an accessible library book drop, elevator, and our technical services department, which is actually on this level right now. They're the ones that receive all the materials and process them so that they can go out to circulation. That would actually be on the lowest level, so that when deliveries come in, they're not having to trudge through the building. The next level is the circulation area. It's the new browsing section. On that level, we will have a dedicated friends space. We will have a 12-person meeting room that would be accessed after hours also. And just a new collection to browse. The self-checkout stations, and then photocopying and some mobile display features that we would have. Public restroom. The next level is all youth services. Right now it's split, so teen services are across from the adult circulation desk. This would all be on the same level, so from infants and preschoolers all the way through teens will be on this floor. Here we would offer, again, just a variety of seating. It does have a study room and 2 family restrooms, dedicated program space. The uppermost level here, we would actually be this level, so we would have the older stacks in this area. We would have more study rooms that people can access. The public access computers will be on this level, the maker space. And our program, we'll have a program room that will accommodate a little over 100 people. That space will be accessible to the community also. It can be used after hours. And it will have a kitchenette, and we'll have our local history room on this level. And then just additional restrooms as well. So I would have to say, I think the input from the community, the surveys that were submitted, working with the building committee and the architects, our project manager, like they listened to what Hudson wanted. They wanted this building in the downtown area. We're able to keep it downtown to make sure that it's pedestrian friendly, blending the old and the new, meeting the needs. I know 37 million is a high number, but that we were actually keeping it as reasonable as possible.
But a third of it's already covered.
That's right.
Yes, a third of it is
35%,
covered.
is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And that doesn't factor into other grants that we might be able to apply for, and fundraising also that will go with it.
And I think, you know, a question we get a lot is, what if we just do a really great renovation and not do all of this? There comes a point at which when you renovate a certain amount, you lose your, so we're grandfathered in right now, we're not ADA compliant, we don't have a sprinkler, you know, a fire sprinkler system. At some point, the more you touch, you cross the threshold, and then you have to become compliant, you lose your grandfather status. So it's a lot more complicated than it seems, I think, at first, I know it at first glance, so.
So we'll have Christine speak about sort of the critical factors and considerations.
Yes, so this is sort of a summary of some of these things we've already talked about. The building no longer meets the needs of the community. I mean, besides the fact of the safety and the maintenance issues, we're projected to be 22,000 people by 2030. Best practices are that you have 0.9 to 1.2 square feet per person in town. We are currently 14,000 square feet. So we're very small. This building is very small for a community that continues to grow. We've covered the maintenance. The grant is needs-based. If we don't take advantage of it now, maybe we'll get back on the list in 10 years, God willing, and the creek don't rise, that we even have a library library. So that's, when something like this is, I don't want to say handed to you because a lot of work went into it, but when you get an opportunity like this, it is best to take it. We do need to continue to maintain this building in order to be eligible for the grant. So there's this sort of, work happening behind the scenes that a lot of patrons don't see to keep the building functional and safe, while we are also moving forward, hopefully, with the new plan. Let's see, what else? We'll talk next about the cost of doing nothing. It does need to pass both on September 1st on the ballot, which I just got my ballot today for my election, and then the November town meeting in order for it to go through. Choosing to do nothing is also a choice. So the building will continue to sink and separate. Mold and water have one job, and it's to just keep getting worse, and so that will happen. Funds will still be needed, but it will be to put Band-Aids on things, and things are just getting more expensive. So a year from now, the cost of this project, or even a much smaller project, will be more than it is today. Risks of patron or staff injury, luckily, there's been sort of minimal impact from things falling from the ceiling. Thankfully, the thing I worry about, I've said this now many times, is that the emergency exit, it's raining in there. And so I just think of people, like in a rush to get up or down wet stairs, and it makes me really, really nervous for lawsuits. First for injuries and then for potential lawsuits. If we don't continue to maintain the building, we might be ineligible for future grants, and we might risk more closures. Either, we had a children's section closure, but depending on where damage happens, it could be the whole upstairs, or who knows. And then that leads to disruption of services, which of course our one job is to be here to serve the community. And so that would be terrible.
And I would think also like insurance claims and liability and increased
Yes.
premiums for these repairs that continue.
All right, please join me once again in thanking Aileen and Christine for providing this presentation. The Friends of the Hudson Public Library would like to thank them and all of you for spending this time with us today. The library is the heart of this community. It is the place where everyone is equal and has the same opportunities. A place for teens to hang out, a place to do research and quiet study, a place for preschool parents to meet at story time, a place for discussion and thought and learning. The Hudson Public Library is so much more than books. But our library is broken. It is in need of major repairs just to ensure the safety of patrons and staff. We have an opportunity to change our circumstances. The state is offering us a grant of over $13 million. This is more than 35% of the total project costs. The Friends of the Hudson Public Library would urge you to vote on the ballot question on the September 1st special town election, and to join us at town meeting on November 16th and vote for the library building project. And yes, we'll do questions now.
I heard you have signs for people to put in their yards, encouraging people to vote yes. How do we get them?
Yes, you can either email the Friends, which it's going to be on the next slide, I think. There it is. Or if you find the Friends on Facebook, we have a form that you can fill out. Yes.
It's a little hard for me to tell about the roof. The roof looks basically flat with, there are things sticking out of it that I figure are either vents or solar panels. I don't know which one that is. Flat roofs leak.
I mean, not being an architect.
No, but I mean they do. All school roofs leak. Stores leak because they have flat roof, did anybody consider
I
doing?
mean, we did have architects and engineers, I mean, you know, if
Well,
they're
we-
well plumbed, they, you know,
They have drainage built in.
yes. I mean, this one is not well drained, well plumbed, well
Yeah,
drained.
but, I mean, I've worked around schools all my life, and I've worked in buildings that have flood, they always leak. You've always got buckets, so I wondered, you know, how that was gonna be addressed.
We can bring that back to the architect, so if and when the project passes, we will have to go to the next design development. This is preliminary designs, and this, you know, we had a deadline in December to submit these as approved by MBLC, so we can go back and bring that back to the architect. So one of the things with the roof also that we have to keep in consideration, let me take a look here. So the three things that, they're sort of like periscopes in a way, that's to allow more lighting to come into the building. We also need to have facilities be able to access the roof, so depending on the design of the roof, and maybe that's why it was designed flat. There's also the AC units that would be located on top of the roof as well, so.
Yeah, that's a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gilbert School is the only smart roof school that I've ever seen in my life, because the roof, I mean, it does, that roof thing, but it's slanty. My idea was time has come, and probably won't, but, you know, but flat roofs are easier, because you can just put them down, you know, rubberize
It
them,
might be
and that's.
cost effective too, I don't know. It's
That's,
actually with
that's
costs,
why,
so.
but,
Even though the roof here on the addition, so it has one drainage system, it should have more than one. And that backs up also, so I hear what you're saying.
no, I just.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
just
helpful.
wondered, like, how come not? And
Right.
maybe if somebody had asked that question, you might
Yeah.
be able.
Not yet, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes?
Quick question. How does the new design deal with the fact that you're right next to the river? You know, there's a possibility of flooding and things like that. Like these couple days ago, we had that big rain. The road down the street was like shut off and things like that. So how does the new design maybe accommodate any possible like natural disaster kind of thing, given how close we are to the river?
I'm gonna say that that's a question we're gonna pass along to our architects so that they can answer that.
Yeah.
I would say that most of the building is still further back.
Yeah.
That this parking area, well, I'm sure it would be affected, but it's mostly parking that's near the river.
And it's not gonna go right up to the building itself is not gonna go right up to the river where it is now.
Is some of the subsidence that's happening because it is so close to the river? Like, I'm just curious.
So when they did a study, what I can tell you is that the addition was constructed on fill and ledge. It wasn't properly constructed. So in our studies, I know there's mentions, and if you want to go to our website, you can take a look at what the engineers drafted, but having to do pilings, I believe is what it is, and going
Yeah.
down. But that's,
And you didn't have those.
Yeah, I don't think it mentions the river. I mean, I live over by Farley, and we had a sinkhole up here in our basement overnight. Same issue. I mean, I went down to do the laundry, and there was literally a sinkhole in my basement, which was not, yeah, same thing. It was, you know, like old tree stumps, I guess they used to build. So my house was built in the 60s, and they decay. And so I don't know for sure. I read the whole report. I don't remember them equating it nearness to the river, but just that in the 60s, this was how they were building things, my house included. So I unfortunately have firsthand knowledge of.
Even if it
this.
wasn't near the river, land slopes down.
Right,
So
right,
that's where the water's going, too,
Mhm.
it's going down. Gravity's not just.
right, and that's
Yeah, it's
true
the law.
regardless of whether you're on, live on water or not. It's just that's right. Water is the best and the worst.
We have a question all the way in the back?
Yeah, I actually have a couple questions, but the first one is parking. Are we gonna have more parking space? Like, there's already not enough parking, as we all know. Will this have additional parking because it's sort of built up? Will we gain more parking, or at the end of the day, will we have the same amount that we have now?
It's the same amount.
Yeah.
it's,
Okay,
Better organized,
okay.
less of a free-for-all. Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
To me, what's beautiful about this building is it's a historic building. It is literally a beautiful front part, right?
Mhm.
Is that gonna be maintained in the ultimate, I mean, what, are we keeping that? Are we keeping the beautiful, you know, moldings and the lamp lights, is this, are we gonna lose all of that? Except for the facade? Because I think that that's a really important part of our town's library.
Yeah, and I think we've been hearing that feedback
Yes.
from a few different people. So I think that's something we're gonna take forward to the next steps, if this passes, that this is something Hudson wants. They want the molding, they want the old style to, yeah, the traditional
But
style.
I look at what Stowe did to their library, and the front is very traditional and the back is very modern.
Yes.
And it looks like two different libraries, so
Yes.
I love the idea of the continuity.
Mhm.
And along with that, like sometimes when you work on old buildings, you're gonna find that you can't keep it. So like, has there been thought sometimes about like, I agree, I appreciate the traditional look of it, but there might be a risk of it also just not being viable, right? Because it is, I'm new to town, so this is some like 19th century, is that what it is in the front?
1905.
1905, okay. So, yeah, I mean, has there been discussion about like what you would do if they're
Costs
fine?
more money.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's.
Well, I
It's
think
a
we've
cost.
already
Yeah.
had engineers looking at both the back and the front of the building, and the front is keepable, right?
Mhm. It's the addition that's, which is
Yeah.
funny, you know, the newer,
The addition that's giving us the most problems.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
How long do we anticipate that the building will be closed? Where is has anybody thought about how long the construction is, how long it will be closed, and where the library is gonna be? Has that been sort of worked through yet, or is that still in process?
These are all great questions. So typically, the construction project is about 18 to 24 months. If the project passes, our architects are ready to sort of move forward next year in 2027. They're looking at the fall. So we're kind of keeping in line with that also, but we're trying to focus on each hurdle as it comes up. So right now, it's to get through the vote. We would have to find an alternate location, we're already brainstorming that, and we have some ideas, so, but we can't, there isn't too much that we can do with it until this vote passes. And it's important to us to continue to provide services. We also need to maintain our certification, so we have requirements from the state, but it's also the services that we do want to continue to provide. So circulating materials, continue to do outreach, continue to do, offer programs, door-to-door services, visit schools. So all of that will still take place during the construction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How much is this building sinking each year, this addition?
So the addition itself has separated, and I don't know what the current data is, but it's 2.5 inches from the time that it was put on in the 1960s, and will continue to shift.
So the building itself is separating from the main part of the
Yes,
library?
it's pulled apart.
2.5 inches? Okay. You don't know how far in the ground it's going?
I don't.
Okay, I think you need to have that at town meeting, because one of the things I personally will tell you, town meeting's gonna look at it, and also, there's a cost involved in keeping this building.
Mhm.
And that, I think you have to walk in with, it's gonna
Yes.
cost us X number of dollars, whether we do this or not. Because November town meeting is a tough one to get through, to be honest with you, I haven't been here for a very long time. It's much harder than May. And I think some of those answers out there say you should have a plan of where you're gonna go, even if you have 3 or 4 options for a town meeting. And how long, because that's other questions that people are gonna ask. And I'm sorry it's April 30th, 27, because if it does go down as not supported in September 1st, we always have a chance to bring it back to the voters, but our town meeting
Yes.
and our elections are in May. So I'm sorry to see that pop up on the screen.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
too
think
bad.
personally, I would talk about the maintenance and repair as one of the major things about it. If we don't do anything, it's gonna cost us X number of dollars. Now, we're not gonna do something, we have to do something.
Right.
How are you gonna get the mold out of the building? You can't have a building with mold that opens to the public.
Mhm.
I mean, those are the kind of things I think you have to come into town meeting and talk about.
Okay.
Yes.
My question, this is a beautiful plan and it brings lots of great things to the library. My question is, is it the minimum to make things right? Or have we gone a little far? I don't know if other plans were considered. Like, is this the minimum to address the issues? Along with bringing in these nice to haves, but are they nice to have or need to have? I know you talked about compliance,
Mhm.
so there's some things that have to be addressed there. But were other smaller plans considered, or?
I have my assistant director, Lisa, who would actually like to respond to that.
I'm gonna turn around because I don't have that long way. So, every step of the way, our plans have to get approved by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, who are the people who hopefully will give us the grant money. And what they required from us is to plan for the next 30 years. Because we're not allowed to come back if we get the grant in that time period. And so one of the things they said is not just for the next 30 years, but for the next 30 years of what our community wants. So I have two things to say about that that pertain to your question. The first thing is when we had the community input, we offered the array of options that we could include in our library, including things that some other modern libraries have, like a recording studio. And that sounded kind of cool to me, but our community was clear that they wanted to keep it simple. So what you see all around here is the result of keeping it simple. It's not the bells and whistles. The majority of the space you see, the space beyond what we have now, is in the community rooms and in the programming space and in the bathrooms. And 30 years might seem like a long time. You know, I might not still be in Hudson in 30 years. But what planning for 30 years means is that also we're not going to be coming back in 5 years saying, you know, we need this. This is going to be what our library needs for the next 30 years.
Right, and the MBLC does require that we build the right, they will not give a grant to a building that isn't right-sized. And they're, you know, the ones that set best practices. They have a, you know, sort of an overview of all the libraries in Mass. So if we went back to them with a library that was the same size as this library, they would say, well, this isn't going to meet, this isn't right-sized. This is the wrong size for your growing population. So we are, I mean, we could have maybe done something cheaper, then we wouldn't have the grant. So at the end of the day, you know, the bottom line for Hudson would end up being more. Or our grant amount would be less because our total project cost was less. You know, it's not.
I guess that's what I wanted to know, is if without the grant, there was a more affordable option, like it was, is there an option that was considered that would cost the town less that addressed
Right, like
the
bottom
need,
line.
but without a grant?
I mean,
Yeah.
for a town obligation of 24 million, it's kind of hard to imagine what we would end up with that would,
Yeah.
you know, especially when you factor in the making a building compliant is no joke, especially when you look at like this slope that we have over here that has to be dealt with. So, you know, it's just 24 million, it's crazy. It's not a lot of money. It sounds like, you know, a huge number coming out of my mouth, but it isn't. And so
And up to code.
exactly. I mean, just that, like those basics, and then all the remediation. I don't know. I'm not an architect, but my guess is we wouldn't get anything that'd be very interesting or brag-worthy for 24 million.
And with the right size building,
Mhm.
we did work with consultants. We did solicit community input. We had the surveys. We had community engagement. We worked with the staff also. So, you know, we've been focusing a lot on the community's needs and stuff, but we also need to support our staff also. So we worked with them as to, you know, what types of space do you need so that you can do your job, you know, feel supported and do it so that it's easy, you know, streamline it, make it the workflow better for them as well. So working with the consultants, working with the community, working with the state MBLC, you know, meeting with them, getting approval for each of these milestones that we've been working towards.
Thank you for the explanation. Can I ask you one more small question? You mentioned the historical, maintaining the Hudson histories. I'm aware that the Hudson Historical Society is homeless right now. are you considering housing them in the new space or just having some space for Hudson artifacts?
It's just some of the Hudson collection. So this is a standalone project. When we initiated the grant process, at that time it would have had to have been a joint project for an independent standalone. And at that time, the Historical Society has space. So, and we looked at working with other departments also, but ultimately it ended up becoming a standalone project. And then if you bring the departments together, just think of the cost that would have been. You know, the grant would cover just the library portion, and now you would be bringing in additional costs that would not be covered by the grant.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Not a question, but I just want to thank all of you for all the work you've done and continue to do to help bring the next library to us. I've been living here for over 30 years, more like 35. I'm a regular user of the library. I've seen a lot of transition in those years. It is a jewel of our town, and thank you for all the work you've done and continue to do. I'm again like a historical person, so that's my bent, and I'll also say that the addition to me is way too modern looking, but that's one girl, you know.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Please have some snacks, come look at the renderings, and if you want to talk one-on-one with any of us, we'd enjoy that too. Thank you.
Thank you.